Okay, you go ahead, Doug.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Do This, Then That, a presentation on using Canvas prerequisites and requirements in your Canvas modules. My name is Jake, and I'm going to be your guide through today's experience. There are a couple links down here in the corner, if you can see the screenshot there, what I'm sharing with you. Those are just going to take you to a couple of guides that are going to go over the same thing that I'm going to talk to you about today. So if you're more of a visual reader kind of person and would rather go read those instructions than listen to me, you can. The directions are right down there in the corner. But that's what we're going to talk about today, is prerequisites and requirements. This is part of our Teacher Connect series, which Digital Teaching and Learning is putting on. Now that we're all in this remote learning experience and we're using Canvas a lot, we're trying to offer as many tips and tricks to everybody out there as we can. So these sessions are going to happen almost weekly. I think we have them scheduled on a weekly schedule. Circumstances notwithstanding, who knows, maybe there's a hurricane or something, but look for them on Fridays. Anyway, take a look at those articles if you want, and otherwise we're ready to get started. I do want to mention, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat for me. I'm going to ask that you please stay muted so that we don't get too crazy on the channel. But throw questions in chat if you have them, and I will try and address them as we go. I do have some time at the end that I can catch up everybody up onto. All right, so we ready? Let's get started. Okay, so online courses can be pretty hectic. It's new to everybody, it's new to the teachers, it's new to the students. And what are teachers seeing in my experience? Well, they're seeing that students don't necessarily know the order that they're supposed to be doing things in. Some students aren't completing all of the work that the teacher is expecting to complete. Modules can be kind of confusing as what am I supposed to do when and in what order, right? Think of it like a nightclub, right? If learning is the nightclub and the line of people to get in are the students, we see all sorts of different folks, right? Maybe there's some students who aren't reading all the pages. They aren't submitting all of the assignments, or they're scoring too low for our expectations. Wouldn't it be nice if we could control the flow of learning in our modules and our courses so that we can get more consistent results? Fortunately, there is a way to do that. We can control the madness. Canvas has some tools that are going to help out with this, okay? So I'm going to continue the nightclub analogy here. So before you can get into the nightclub, right, you're going to run into two things. First, you're going to run into the guy at the door, security, the doorman, right? And he's going to be holding a list. And the doorman is not going to let you into the club unless you're on the list, unless you grease his palm a little bit, give him some cash, right? But you got to be on the list to get in, right? So I want you to think of the doorman as something that Canvas is calling prerequisites. And I want you to think of the list as what Canvas is going to call requirements. All right, so we've got prerequisites and requirements, controlling whether you can get into the club. All right, so prerequisites in Canvas, they work just like the security dude at the club, right? So a doorman prevents patrons from getting into the club unless they meet the proper standards, meaning they're on the list or you give them some cash, right? If you're not on the list, you can't come in, he says. Prerequisites in Canvas work exactly the same way. So they keep students from getting into a module unless they've met the requirements laid out by the teacher. So like if you haven't finished module number 1, you can't start module number 2. Does that make sense? So your prerequisites are the bouncer at the club. All right, so if you're not on the list, how do you get on the list? Well, that's what Canvas calls requirements, right? Requirements are like the list that security dude is holding. Either you're on the list or you're not. If you want to get on the list, if you're at a club, you either flirt or you pay or you pray, right? If it's Canvas, you show that you completed a module by meeting the requirements that the teacher has set for that module, right? So the teacher can say, here's what you need to do to be completed in this module. Those are called Canvas requirements. Students must complete each of the requirements in order for that module to be considered complete, quote unquote. So in this way, the requirements and the prerequisites, they kind of go together, right? In order for a prerequisite to work, it has to specify a module that has to be complete. And in order for that module to be considered complete, it has to satisfy the requirements that are set up for that module. It sounds kind of crazy. It's easier to show in practice. So what I'm going to actually do is jump into Canvas and show it to you. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my Canvas instance. All right, so I'm inside just a demo course that I have created. And I've got a few example modules laid out right down here, first, second, and third, named that way just so we can track what order they're supposed to go in my brain. All right, so you can see that I have some additional buttons laid out right up here, or some additional words displaying here on the modules, and that's because these modules already have prerequisites and requirements set up for them. Okay, I'm just going to show them to you first, and then I'm going to show you how to add them. So I'm going to come over here to this module, for example. You can see I've got a button that says add prerequisites, and then I've got some requirements down here, right? Don't worry about what they all mean yet. We're going to get there in just a second. I'm just showing them to you. And if I check this one out, you can see I have a prerequisite added up here, and I've got some requirements here as well. And the same is true for this third one. I've got more than one prerequisite and several requirements down here. All right, so if I'm interested, actually, I want to show you what these look like from the student point of view first. So remember that the prerequisites are what does a student have to do before they can start. So since I have this second module, says the prerequisite is the first module, this is saying that a student cannot start this module until they have finished the first one, right? So, and then the third one, I have two prerequisites. So they have to finish the first module and they have to finish the second module before they can begin on the third module. So if I grab a student over here and let me bring him onto screen, let me just make him small enough that we can see. All right, so I'm logged in now as one of the students in this course. And if I click into here, you see the little symbols that are showing up over on the right-hand side. I've got little green check marks, right? Those are from the requirements. And then I've also got, it tells me what the prerequisites are right here. So if I had a student, if this student, Daryl Dixon, had not gotten check marks on all of these items in module number 1, he would not be able to get into module number 2. He would get a message saying, oh, you didn't do everything you had to do back in the beginning. Go back and fix it. If I take a look at this student, this is another student. Let me minimize it a little bit. This is Kermit. All right, here's a good example. So this student has check marks for module number 1, but look in module number 2, right? This quiz is not satisfied yet. He hasn't satisfied the requirements that I set up for this module, which means that this module is not complete. So if I try to start this module down here, it's grayed out. I can't, I'm clicking, I can't even get into it, right? And I can't get into it because I didn't complete everything I needed to in module number 2 first. This student did, so they can continue. All of these modules are published. You can see they're all published. So I haven't locked students out by not publishing a module yet. The modules are there, but I'm controlling what they can access and in what order by saying what they have to do first. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so how do I set them up? What do I have to actually do to add requirements and modules? Or excuse me, requirements and prerequisites to my module. It's pretty simple. It's not immediately obvious. I wish there's just some UI things that I wish Canvas was better at, like a button that says, give me requirements would be nice right here, but it's hiding a little bit. So it's under the 3 dots on the right-hand side of your module. So you're gonna find the module that you wanna add the requirements or the prerequisites to, and you're gonna go over to the right, choose the 3 vertical dots right here, and you're going to click on Edit. So we're gonna edit this module. So again, 3 dots to the right and choose Edit. And this is where you would rename your module if you wanted to, right? But also it is where you add requirements and prerequisites. And actually, you'll notice that I don't have a button that says prerequisites right now. And that's an important thing. It's almost like I did that on purpose. It's important for us to know that prerequisites are things you have to do before you can start, right? And remember that modules go in order. Since this module is the first one in the list, there are no prerequisites to set because there's nothing that comes before it, right? So if I drag it down here to the bottom, however, and I do the same thing. I go to edit. You see, now I have the option to add a prerequisite because now there are modules that come before this module in the list, right? Okay, remember modules are linear. Boom, 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 boom. First, second, next, etc. All right, so if I want to add a prerequisite, I just click on the blue add prerequisite button. I'm gonna add it right here. And then I just choose from the module that they need to complete. They have to complete the first module before they can start this one. If I want to add an additional module, for example, here, this third module, notice it has 2. They have to be done with this, and they have to be done with this. I can add all of those prerequisites, as many as I would like, to my module. So I'll say module 1, add another one, module 2, add another one, module 3. This means that every one of these modules that I'm designating as a prerequisite has to be complete before they can move on to this module. That's how prerequisites work, okay? You can split it up as yes, so good question, Ms. Goins. Can you only set modules as prerequisites? Exactly. So prerequisites are modules. So modules that are complete before moving on. You cannot do the same with just assignments in a module. Nope, sorry, it's module level only. So for one specific student, no, sorry, you can't. Prerequisites and modules work for it's for the entire class, for the entire course. They're course-wide settings. Good questions. Okay. Anyway, here, so those are prerequisites, right? So prerequisites work in tandem with requirements, right? So this is saying first module has to be complete. I'm going to click update module. So now you can see the prerequisites show right there. So if I'm saying they have to complete module number 1, then I need to go to module number 1, right up here, and say, this is what they have to do to be complete. And you're going to get to that from the same place. It's from the edit menu. So I'm going to go to the 3 dots. I'm going to go to edit. Now remember, I don't see prerequisites now. Why? Because it's the first one in the list, right? I don't see it if it's the first one in the list. All right, but down here is where we have the option to add requirements. If you don't have any requirements there yet, it will look like this. It'll just say, oh, okay, well, this one's a poor example because I don't have anything in this module. So that's a good point. You have to have content in your module before you can set a requirement for it. You can't say, do assignment number 2 if there is no assignment number 2. So here, we'll just do this. I'll remove these so you can see what it looks like. All right, so you'll see that we've got an add requirement button. So when I click on add requirement, I get a few different options. And this is where you can really customize what these requirements look like. So you can say, everything I'm going to lay out in this page, I'm going to give 4 different requirements here, and my students have to do all 4 of them, or it doesn't count. Or you can say, I'm going to list 4 things here, and my students only have to do 1 of them. It's up to you, right? You can see that it says students must complete 1 of these requirements. So you could make it, if you had, for example, 2 assignments and you would accept either 1 from students in order to satisfy a requirement, you could set up the requirement to be, they could choose assignment number 1, or they could choose assignment number 2. As long as they do 1 of those things, it will count as complete. Does that make sense? So that's the difference between students must complete all of these requirements and students must complete 1 of these requirements. You can add as many requirements as you want. So right now I've got module number 1 set to a page. I can add another requirement. I'll set it to the discussion. Okay, since there's 2 things there. You can also require students to move through these items sequentially, meaning you're locking them into the order that you have things in the module. So if a student goes to the module page without requirements, right, if you haven't set up requirements, if a student goes and looks at the modules page, they can click onto any one of those items in the module page that they want. If they want to go straight to page number 5, they can, right? If you set up a requirement inside your requirements for the module that says students must move through these requirements in sequential order, and you add an item to your requirements here for each of the items in your module, it means that they cannot skip to number 4. They will have to go in order of whatever is in the module. So for instance, if I have this set up as it is right now, this very moment, and I click update module, it means when Kermit the Frog comes back into my class and tries to go straight to page number 2, it'll say, sorry, you got to go back and do page number 1 first. So that's useful, right? Sometimes if we have super long modules, it might be a pain to set up requirements for everything inside that module, but maybe we want to break those modules up a little bit so that we can control the flow of things better. I'm going to uncheck this for now. All right, so it's also important to know with requirements that whatever the content type in Canvas is, will give you some slightly different options for those requirements. So for instance, this is just a regular old page, like a wiki page. I've got some information there. You can choose that students have to view the item. That means all they have to do simply is click onto that page in the module and it will count them as complete. They've viewed the item. You can also give a requirement that says they have to mark it as done. So what this does is it puts a little button in the upper right-hand corner that says mark as done. Let me see if I can grab one of my students. Where did my Safari window go? Cancel out of here. Cancel. Multitasking all these windows. There we go. Okay. Oh, okay. He's the wrong one to choose because he didn't meet the requirement to view this thing. So let me look at this one instead. Here we go. Okay. So here's one that says mark as done. Notice it puts a little box up in the corner that says I'm finished with this. Right? So you can put that onto a page, just a regular old page. So if you're setting a page that says, I want them to read this and mark it as done when they're done reading it, you can. That's also pretty useful for assignments that might not have a submission, especially if you're using Google Forms, right? Lots of us still like to embed our Google Forms inside our Canvas pages. Well, the Google form will send the answer to the spreadsheet or wherever it's going. But there's no way for Canvas to know whether they clicked that submit button on the Google form. So you can add the mark as done button in the upper right-hand corner maybe. And now students, when they're done, they have to mark that thing as finished so you know that they've submitted the form, right? So anyway, they've got view the item and they've got mark as done. And then the other option for a page is contribute to the page. And that's because maybe if you remember, when you have a page, so like this page right here, if I jump into edit this page, at the bottom, remember that you have permission, you have the possibility, excuse me, to give permission to students to edit this page, right? So if it's a collaborative page that you want students to add information to, you can give them permission, and that's what contribute to the page means. So if you have that option set as a requirement that students must contribute to the page, it's going to check and see if they have contributed anything to that page for you. All right, so that's the requirements you can set for a page. If you have discussions, you only have two options. You've got view the item or contribute to the page, right? So you don't have mark as done. They either have to look at the discussion or they have to reply to the discussion. If they haven't replied to the discussion, it doesn't count as being finished. If you have other content types, like assignments and quizzes, so I'm just going to go to the same spot. I'm going into edit. For an assignment, you get an additional two options. You get submit the assignment, so it will automatically count as finished or as completed once they've submitted the assignment to you. And you also have score at least, and that's available with the quizzes too. You can see it right there with the quiz. This is a way of locking in the mastery thing. So if a student didn't score at least an 80% on this assignment or on this quiz, then they can't move on. So maybe you have a quiz set up that they can take more than one time, and the requirement is they need to score at least an 80 before they can complete. You let them retake. They can go back and view the other pages that you had laid out for them and retake the quiz until they've satisfied the requirement, and then Canvas will open up the next step for them to move on. All right, so depending on the content type, assignments versus quizzes versus pages, versus discussions, you're going to get a few different options over here on the right-hand side, but you should know what they all mean now. Will Canvas give the students the highest grade in the gradebook? Good question, Ms. Cordway. That's an option that you can set on the quiz itself. So when you're editing the quiz as the teacher, you're setting it up the first time. If you're choosing to allow them multiple attempts, you get to choose which score you want to keep in the gradebook, whether you want to keep the highest one, the latest one, or the average one. It's up to you. Okay, so but you don't set that up from the requirements, you set that up from the quiz itself. Excuse me. Okay, so all of that makes sense. Any questions, any additional questions? I know I kind of flew through all of that. Let me jump back over to a student here, and I'm going to show you now. Okay, we go. Here's the quiz, showing the results that I chose. I just want to show you now what happens when I click next as this student, what the error message is going to look at. So here it goes. It says this assignment is part of this module, second module, and hasn't been unlocked yet. The following requirements need to be completed before this page will be unlocked. And it's telling me right there, I have to score at least a 2 out of 3. Okay, and I didn't do that. So as the student, I can come back and retake this quiz if I had it set up to do that. I'm actually not sure that the teacher allowed me to do that, which was a mistake on my part. I'm going to need to change that if I want my student to be able to move past it. Well, let's just do that now. Oh, no, multiple attempts. Yes, okay. Hopefully that works and I didn't lock my other student out of taking it. Poor planning, Jake, poor planning. Right. I just really want you to, oh, I'm in the wrong one, of course. Just want you to see what it looks like. Where did, sorry if my screen's jumping around. My share box is being a little bit crazy. There we go. All right, there we go. Take the quiz again. All right, so now if I go through as this student, I get my app, I went back and did my remedial learning. You don't have to pay attention. These are super nerdy questions. It's just where my brain works. Oh, someone is asking me if there is a NESIS code for this. There is. I'll show it to you at the end of the session. Someone else is saying, are you going to send us the recordings? We can look at this later too if we need to. Of course, this recording will be up on our DIF YouTube channel. So feel free to pop over to the YouTube channel and you can see any of these sessions, any of these teacher sessions that you may have missed will always be on our YouTube channel. You can go back and grab them. And I'll share that information with you too later. But let me just answer these questions real quick. Make sure I remember what they're supposed to be. Yes, you really don't have to pay attention to these questions. It's just my nerdy sense of humor. Okay, yep. You can, if you would like to go back and watch this recording and study these questions so you know the nerdy answers, feel free. You might know them already, I don't know. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I got a 3, and now when I click on next, it's letting me into the next assignment, right? So now I have access to the assignment. But it did that because of the way that I have set up the requirements inside my modules. So let me just rehash that one more time for you. Prerequisites and requirements work together to control the order that students can access your Canvas modules, right? Requirements are set for a module that says, in order for this module to be complete, you must do X, Y, and Z. Prerequisites go on a module to say, before you can start this one, you have to have finished the other ones, okay? But there's no way for Canvas to know if a student finished module A unless you put some requirements in there for it to say that it's finished, right? So even if I set a prerequisite on second module right here that says finish the first one, if I don't have any requirements for the first one, Canvas doesn't know if it's done or not, so the prerequisite won't work. So they have to be used together. Okay. All right. So what I'm calling last call is my cute attempt at questions. Okay, here's another question. Is there a way to prevent a student from submitting an assignment without the work done? Some students submit the assignment, but there's not a file text work to be checked. Unfortunately, there's not. So if you like, inside of, I assume you're talking about like you have an assignment set up with requiring an attachment or requiring some kind of submission and they don't send in the right thing or they don't even send in anything at all. There's not really a way to correct that or control that. It's just going to be you have to respond to the student and say, sorry. Please submit again. Oh, another question. Can you use only requirements and not prerequisites? Yes, you can do that. You can. You can set up requirements all day long as you want to. Remember, prerequisites are only controlling which module they can go to when. So if you don't care that they can start on module number 2 before module 3 is complete, or before module 1 is complete, you don't have to set up prerequisites in that way. You can use requirements on their own because requirements will control the order inside the module, right? Good question. Good question. Okay. Prereqs are modules in general, requirements are within a module. Bingo, exactly right. Yep. So prerequisites control the module flow and requirements are what the requirements inside the module. Yes. All right, I do want to remind you that down here in the corner, right down here are 2 links that are going to take you to, ooh, let me hide that, that are going to take you to a couple of guides that I have written up. So you can always come back and watch this video if you feel like listening to me drone on again, but you have the ability to go and read through these guides too, save them into your Google Drive and use them if you wish. There's one specifically on requirements and one on prerequisites, and it'll guide you through step by step exactly what to click and in what order and what all of the options are in case I breezed past one of them today, which is entirely possible. Will you email those to us? I certainly can. I would say, I don't have a list of everyone who's in here. I might be able to pull them up later, but yes, I'll be happy to do that, especially if you shoot me an email, say, hey, can you send me those guides? I'll be happy to send them to you, of course. Can you control? And also, I'm going to use this opportunity as a shameless plug, because every Friday I send out a Canvas newsletter called the Canvas Chronicles with tips and tricks all about how to use Canvas. And last Friday's issue was all about prerequisites and requirements. And both of those articles were linked inside that newsletter. So you might have them hiding inside your mailbox already somewhere, but if you don't, or you can't find them, please send me an email and I'll be happy to send them along to you again. Can you control which class starts on the module? For example, online students move a little faster in pacing than in the students. Maybe I missed that part. So you can't set different requirements or prerequisites for different sections in your course. You can't. But remember that the prerequisites, when you set them, are on a per student basis. What I mean is, if student A meets those requirements and prerequisites faster than student B, then they will be able to go through it at their pace, and the other student is going through it at their pace. So they're kind of naturally geared towards folks who move faster or don't. I hope that makes sense. You're not receiving emails and newsletters for some reason. Oh, they're coming from an email called Canvas Admin at Hope County Schools. So it just goes out to the mass email list. So if you're not on the mass email list, I'm not sure how we go about fixing that. Any of my teammates know how to fix that if someone's not receiving mass emails?
If they're not receiving that, they subscribe out, but they didn't want to.
Oh, it means, okay.
They hit the unsubscribe from it, but we can go inside their account.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's possible that maybe we inadvertently unsubscribed from the mass emails, and that might be why you're not getting it. If you're not getting a mass email lists, shoot me a message and we'll see about getting you back onto the mass email list. Are the emails available on the website or somewhere else? I may have missed some. Good question, Ms. Sellers. Yes, if you go to the Digital Teaching and Learning website, which I'll pull up now. I've got it. So this is our Digital Teaching and Learning website. And if you look in the menu right here on the Canvas Chronicle, we've got all of the prior chronicles that have gone out listed right here. And if we take a look at last week's, you can see right there, it's all about prerequisites and requirements. Boom, right there. Yes, I will certainly put that in the chat box. Oh, it didn't make an actual link. Let me add this. There you go. That'll take you to the website. In case you missed the emails, they're all listed right there. Good questions. Good questions. Can a student save their responses using Canvas? Can you elaborate a little bit on what that question is? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that.
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear her?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If we get to a prompt in the morning and they go somewhere, and if something happens, for example, we take them to the restroom or whatever, and when they come back, that work is no longer there because they've closed their Chromebook. And that's not just for students, it's also happened with teachers. Is there something that we don't understand that we're not doing, that the children can save the work so they're not frustrated because they have to start all over again?
I think I understand what you're asking. You were breaking up a little bit for me, but there isn't like a, depending, yes, Ms. Riggins, that's exactly what I was going to say, is depending on the assignment type that you're choosing. So if you're having students respond just in a text entry option that Canvas has built in, as a response type. It does not autosave in that way. So if the tab gets closed, the responses are going away. But if you are having them submit Google assignments or Google documents as responses, Google stuff will automatically save, of course. So that might be a reason to look at doing Google stuff instead.
Okay,
Oh,
why is there no autosave on Canvas when we want the children to give us information, text upload and things like that? Why is there no save?
you'd have to ask Canvas that question. I don't know, but they have they do have a suggestion box for folks who think that changes should be made. So I would encourage you, if that's something that you think should be added to Canvas, that you jump over to their website and let them know about it. And if enough people agree with you, they might add it in. I don't know.
Okay. I apologize, I have one more question.
Sure.
When I pull up my information, it tells me that I don't have enough data or something for what I'm doing, and I need to contact the Canvas community. What exactly is that? What are they telling me I must do?
Can you give me an example of what you're trying to do when you get that message?
It comes up every time I go to Canvas.
Every time you go to Canvas. So it's going to be hard for me to know exactly how to respond to that without seeing the message. So I would ask you, the next time that happens, if you would take a screenshot and email it to me, I'd be able to respond to you in a more knowledgeable way.
Thank you.
Yeah, she
Sure,
will.
no problem. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I don't know about so anything you add to your module, as long as the module has actually been saved, should be there. I don't know what to tell you about that, folks. If that's happening, I'm sorry. Go over and make those suggestions to Canvas and see if they'll implement some kind of autosave feature. So
Let Ms. Joyner know that we've added her to the
okay. All right. Ms. Covington is telling me that we've gotten the mass email request taken care of. So if that hasn't corrected for you, just let me know and we'll get it taken care of. All right. Well, that's my session on prerequisites and requirements. Please let me know how else I can help you. I'm always happy to help. I do see one other question inside chat, which came to me privately, but I'm going to ask it out loud anyway. And that is, any idea when second grade is getting Chromebooks? And I wish I had the answer to that for you. I know that as soon as they come in, second grade will be first on the list to get them, but I do not have a date for you just yet. All right, here's how you get credit, folks. There's a NESIS code right there on the screen for you. Jot that down so that you can go and register for your credit in NESIS, okay? I'm going to let that hang out on the screen for just a few more minutes before we end the session today. If you have any other questions, now it's time to ask. Otherwise, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great weekend. Let me know how I can help. Sure, Mr. Mitri, what can I do for you?
I realized I hadn't